Hello and welcome to the NAACP Roundtable, where we always speak of the pressing issues and the things that people are afraid to talk about. As you see, we have a great panel as usual. You know, to my left, Mr. Street, who he takes care of everything. How you feeling today, sir?
I'm ready to rumble.
we gonna let you finish your conversation because we know that's interesting. We had the president here to my right and of the NAACP, state of Delaware, Mr. Richard Smith. How you feel today?
I'd like to say good evening, everybody. But we're gonna pick up from Thursday.
Okay.
The meeting we had with the senators and stuff, their staff and the state. And I really don't want nobody to hold back. We got to take leadership.
Okay.
The black leaders got to step to the forefront and take control of our city. And we must do it. And we're going to figure how tonight.
Okay, we got Reverend Ty. How you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling super. Thank you. Greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus, who is the Christ. I promised the bishop I'm not going to cuss.
Yeah, you being real subtle.
She sent you to keep the rest of us.
Absolutely. And so won't be none of that coming from me. But we will be very straightforward. Thank you.
We
Thanks,
have
NAACP,
the person who studied law here, Mr. Sand Guy, who can make sure that what we say is right, so we don't get in trouble. And then at the end, we know that he told us tonight he's going to be quiet, but nobody believes it. Isn't that right, sir?
Assalamu alaikum to all my grandchildren.
Let's get that
I said I'm
out.
going to be quiet tonight. I'm going to try, but I know that ain't going to happen. Peace to everybody, all my seniors too.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. President.
In our city, we got crisis going right now. We got the young guys who's controlling the guns and stuff, shooting each other, young blacks and stuff, in 5 different areas of the city. And then we got the police who's trying to kill us all. And it needs to be stopped. And at this point, it's a crisis on 6th of Madison with a daycare is closing down after 40-some years, right, Jay?
Yeah, they moved out to
And then when Mr. Street Mr. Street bring his kids from the hilltop down to William Hicks Island's community center, he's scared that they're gonna get caught up in crossfire. It's young older folks that stopping me on Clayton and Rodney, who's saying that they scared the police because the police are just shooting people, and they 60, 70 years old, and they just scared. Over on 28th of Madison, there's a problem with such and such a person who got somebody on the police force who said it's okay to sell drugs. We got a problem, and we got a big problem. And the problem is that everybody tries to speak for our community. You have a meeting over on West Center City, which a bunch of people got there, but it wasn't too many leaders from our community, these 5 communities and stuff, talking plans. I don't have nothing against the plans or nothing. If the plan's good and everything, but I also think that we as black folks been in this game and in this city fighting for years, 50, 60 years, we got to come up with our own plan. We got the demands and stuff. Our community centers, Kingswood is about to close, People Settlement is about to close. Southbridge neighborhood houses is having trouble, and that leaves 2 community centers, which is Jay's and West End. Then you got Boys Club that had closed, and you ain't got no place for nobody to go. The seniors having problems and stuff because the senior citizen places closed. We have a crisis. Then you have a city that basically was left with no money. From the Baker administration, it was left with no money. You don't have a tax base here. You got the DuPont saying, well, we're getting out of town, and they're using a concept that it's a bad city and they can't do this. And you got a development buying up all the properties, and it's going to be a one-man development. And all this is geared to the black community. And I feel it's institutional racism. I feel that we can't be that bad. There are kids who get out of college can't get a job, or there ain't no summer programs for kids, ain't nothing. And there's no money, but you can't blame one mayor. It started back in the Sills administration. It really started back in the Furley administration with the shootings and stuff and the beating with the twins getting killed, beat to death. Then it moved up to the to the Sills administration. Sills did a good job, as I was talking to the Reverend Ty tonight, on the first year, 2 years. Then the third year, it got like 15 to 19 or more shooting. Then it got real rampant in the Baker administration, where the police chief basically couldn't handle it. And now you're up to the Williams administration. All this stuff done pile up. And now it's coming home to, to lay a hand. And we got to be ready for it. We ain't ready. We ain't speaking out of leaders. We got to come together. If I don't like this person, that person, if you got problems with me, you need to deal with me personally, but you need to come around the table right to heal this city. We can't have failing programs. If somebody say that they sent a program in this city and it was successful, they need to try again. Because I haven't seen nothing successful yet. Only thing I've seen successful is funerals when people get killed, when young guys get killed. The funeral business is successful. Ain't nothing else successful, so I'm going to move on.
How you feel about that? Because I know you really had a lot to say about the federal people supposedly came in to help us out, and nobody's seen any help anywhere.
Well, let me be crystal clear. I went to the congressional delegation, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware, and I asked for help. The Violence Reduction Network program, and the mayor was crystal clear in the conversation I had with him Friday, and the data's clear. The training and the technology has been helpful. It's improved the clearance rate for homicides. It's improved the clearance rate for finding shooters after they shot. That's very much appreciated. However, in my opinion, it's woefully insufficient. Nobody is going to tell me when we as a nation can use DEA, FBI, federal marshals, ATF, resources from the Department of Justice to go into other nations and begin to stop drug trafficking into the country, begin to break up gangs that in the first city, in the first state, between all those entities I just named, the Wilmington Police Department, Delaware State Police, we can't stop a band of 13 to 25-year-old street drug dealers from terrorizing the city. So my request was simply to use all your influence. So the last paragraph, and use all the influence that you have as federal officials to provide the relief that U.S. Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, promised in September of 2014. He targeted 5 cities. It's worked in Camden. I don't know how it's worked in Detroit and Chicago, but I'm saying if there are other resources above and beyond the technology and the training available to you to help with this, please provide it. And I think the city's in trouble. I also think the city can be saved. But it's a matter of we as so-called leaders just can't sit idly by and do nothing. And as I said to City Council the other night, you keep doing the same thing the same old way, you're going to get the same results. Right. And we have to do things above and beyond. And, Mouse talked about the meeting Thursday with the staff people from the congressional delegation in the governor's office. And the conversation was the mayor this, the mayor this, the mayor that. I snapped. I said, I am not going to sit here and let y'all let the mayor be solely responsible for this. He inherited this problem. The shootings were out. He promised to take care of it. He said he could do it. Well, it hasn't been done. But to leave him as the person that's held solely accountable, and I said this on my Facebook page the other day, no, we all have a responsibility at every level of government, be it city, be it state, be it federal. It's our collective responsibility, and if it's failing, it's our collective response. It's our collective failure. And as I said at the city council meeting the other night, we're making history. And how is our history as leaders going to read? Is it going to be read that we had a problem, we worked together to resolve it, or did we fail and the city end up going to hell in a handbasket?
Well, right now we fell.
Yeah,
I'm
but
looking
what
at
pissed me off.
Like, I'm
at
going to
the
say my
meeting-
spiritual
The man
leaders.
said he wasn't going to cut.
You
Well,
know,
what I didn't put, well, what pissed me off was when I asked the guy from Coons' office, what would you do if this problem was in your particular community? And this joker couldn't answer me to this day. Because, you know, like I said earlier when we was out in the hall, they come in our communities from the University of Delaware, wherever else they come from, and get our statistics of what we need and the problem that we have. They go to the federal government or the foundations and get money, and then they make us write a proposal to get that money. I mean, come on. That's un-American and unpatriotic, because if you see that we can't do that, so they say that we can't do that. Remember they said, well, the city don't have no
City
what
didn't
you call them,
have,
writers.
city didn't have a grant writer.
Grant writers. I mean, come on. If that is it for me as a veteran, if that is the case, then you know that, why don't that office come in
And provide that.
That's right. That's
provide
right.
that
That's
technical
providing that
assistance.
technical assistance. And not doing that again is un-American and unpatriotic, and I'll pass.
Can we raise the conversation just a tad? You know, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Dr. Neely Fuller talks about we live in a white racist supremacist society. And what I hate to do is what I heard someone say, and I think it was you, Imam, at the table. We have to stop allowing ourselves to make the victim or blaming the victim.
Right.
Now that's first.
Yes.
Then I think when you look at the fact that there's a guy who just come out on YouTube, Robert Connors, who said that he worked for the Department of Defense, and his job was solely to monitor rap music and to rap certain areas where blacks had guns and certain things, and ensure that there was an influx of guns and influx of things so that we could begin to implode from the inside. So I had a conversation with the governor, let's do this. And Mr. President, I've seen us do better. I have seen it get better. I have seen some things work. When Churches Take a Corner, other groups had come together, it wasn't only black, it was black, white, and other folks who worked together. So, but they were all, there was accountability across the board, and it began to work. And what I began to see was people, the guy who worked at Child Inc., I forget his name, and he brought me a piece of paper, and he said, Ty, the report is right here. And the report talked about how Wick and Pack was started and the data and stuff in West Center City, how it held, right before National Guard was here, what the folks did to work to stabilize it, and it was amazing. I knew nothing of that work, and I knew nothing of how the corporate was brought in, right? And we have no corporate folks at the table right now.
And they won't come. They won't come.
Well, I'm just saying, let me finish my
Go
point.
ahead.
Corporations were brought in, right? The corporations weren't just sitting there doing business. We said to them, you have a stake in this. Where are your people? Why aren't they at the table? They were brought in, and then they anteed up. Government was brought in. Government did what they were supposed to do, and the folks in the community, parents, grandparents, and those kind of folks were also brought in to say, hey, you have a responsibility. I don't know that we begin to move in that direction. I know we got a lot of people doing a lot of stuff. I don't know that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing in a lot of cases. And I don't know that a lot of folks who are in government even listen or care. You see, so I think we got some work to do in regards to some of that.
But see, you're making my point for me, and that's what made me write the letter to the mayor and council in my capacity as executive director of Hilltop, and what made me in my capacity as councilman for half the city send a letter to the congressional delegation and U.S. attorney. Okay, when we had the riots and West Center City burned, I was just a teenager. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was a big player and all that. I'm just a teenager.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Hicks and the elders say, well, what y'all want?
Yep.
Okay. We said we wanted a community center.
Right.
Okay. And Hicks and the elders were crystal clear. If you want a community center, what are you going to give to the community? Okay, so we started. I was an athlete, but I wasn't a star athlete. Most of the star athletes were track stars. So they started a little boys track team, and it's still flourishing right now. Art Magic's still running it.
That's right.
Okay, and the elders said, well, if you're going to give them a community center and a basketball court, we got to have something here for the kids. We got to have a daycare center. They fought for that. I'll take my little rear end, go down to university, do my little 4 years, I come back, it's all there. So now I go to Hilltop in 1981. I want Hilltop to be to the west side of 95 what West Center City Daycare is to the east side of 95. Well, see, now when you take what we fought for in the 60s and now it's got to relocate, that leaves the door swinging wide open for everybody else to have to relocate. I can't sit idly by knowing what the elders did, the process there, the gains that we had. If this one is in jeopardy, then mine's in jeopardy. And everybody else is in jeopardy. So to me, it can't be business as usual. And for us as a city, as so-called leaders, to allow the level of crime, the number of vacant properties, all of which are part and parcel to each other. Crime and vacant property comport with each other. And to just business as usual, it just can't happen.
It's not on crime and vacant property. It's crime, vacant property.
No jobs, no
lack of
economic development.
Yeah,
and
poverty.
all that.
Poverty.
But all those,
Poverty.
basically,
Poverty.
all these things that you're speaking of, basically, is symptoms of another problem. And most of the time, we always look at the symptom as the cause instead of looking at the cause.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but what do you do with this multi-million-dollar enterprise they got here? And when I say a multi-million-dollar enterprise, the guns is a multi-million-dollar enterprise. When you talk about Tech 9s, all that, you talking about $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 guns, okay? You talking about the bullets is running $200, $300 to get the bullets, you know what I mean? Then you got the drugs. Then you got houses that they taking over, and they go inside the house. A young lady told me about 33rd in Washington. She called me and she said, Malcolm, I need to talk to you. She said, you helped my sister and stuff because they were trying to shoot her sister. And she said, I want to talk to you because next door a house stay and they put it for oxygen. They drop it down from 197 to 137. And this guy came and said it was for his house, and he set up a business. You know, that's enterprise. Enterprise means that you doing the RICO Act. You know what I mean? Enterprise means that you ain't no different than the gangsters up in New York or the gangsters in Philadelphia. It's taking over a city. Now we can sit here and say that West Center City's in trouble, all these cities in trouble, but when are we as black leaders going to take responsibility and say we didn't do our job?
But my point to you is, and my point to the federal authorities and the staff people that were there, my understanding is the Justice Department and the entities I just named are real good, had the expertise in dealing with guns, drugs, and gangs.
And the state.
You mean to tell me that you as the sitting congressional delegation will not use your influence to ask
they
for
should,
that help,
because we vote them in.
Especially when you've got a governor's commission that specifically said number 14 of that 200-page document, the city of Wilmington should ask the U.S. Marshals to form a task force specifically for the city of Wilmington. You mean to tell me you as a delegation can't ask for that? If they tell you no, then we have to question your influence and the utilization of your influence. But guns, gangs, and drugs, I thought that's what they had the expertise in.
And they
Let
did.
Let the lawyer weigh in, because I got a question to ask him. Go ahead.
And I'm saying I may not talk about the same things that you're talking about, but it's a cousin to it. And this is what I'm looking at. I'm fact focused.
Yes.
So if we go back when the folks in the county didn't want their children bust in the city and didn't want our kids bust out into the county, they wanted local control and end busing, and they wanted no federal supervision. I want y'all to remember that the Attorney General was Charles Oberle that filed the document. He's now the U.S. attorney. So he didn't protect our children then. He took away our children's federal protection. So do you really believe that he's going to provide protection for our children now or for us when we get shot?
Good point.
He got promoted
Because he
for
didn't do
killing
that.
our children
That's right.
off, essentially. Let's go to the Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court. He was the counsel to Governor Carper. Now he's the Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court. So how does he go from wanting to get rid of protection for our children to being the Chief Justice, and now we're looking for him to solve all of the problems in our community in the criminal justice system? And then you got Tom Carper was the governor when they did that. He's been promoted to be a U.S. Senator. So those folks, and Paul Fine, those are the folks that set up this structure of no federal supervision. They also set up this charter school system, and our kids have been getting killed ever since. And the part that hurts me the most is I agree with what everybody was saying here. Like on our watch, is everything in place that was there when we arrived? Because if it's not, then our elders are looking at us funny, saying, well, wait a minute, where's the Layton home? Okay, certain things are missing. So I don't want you to forget
Where
that.
the two hospitals?
Right, so I don't
Where's
want
the
you to
presence
forget
of the media in this town?
So they promote the people who kill us,
Right.
who destroy our community, get promoted in this system. So this whole system can't work for
But
us.
as a lawyer, you're saying, can I ask you a question?
And that's what I was saying when I was in my opening statements. Let's stop looking at the victim and start looking at the system that we have allowed for, and not point fingers at, so all of us have failed. So all of us could have done a better job. All right, what do we do right now about a white racist supremacist society? Not all white people, but certainly there is a certain group of folks who are operating to set up certain systems that will cause us to implode.
It's purposeful.
Purposeful.
Listen, the University of
That's all
Delaware's
I'm talking
program
about.
in public
That's all I'm
administration
talking about. And we
is
need to
top 10.
And we need to stop acting like we don't know that.
They all know that all of the things that they did when they did it, they knew from the research what the outcomes are when you do a certain thing. So we're on our almost third generation of people that lived in the city not getting a proper education. What you see on the streets of Wilmington is what you get when you have 2 and 3 generations of people not getting a decent education so that they have hope. Then they got to create their own
And
economy.
speaking on that right there, when you talked about not getting the education, I'm going to speak on not being educated on laws, policies, and procedures. So if they don't know how to navigate that, they don't know how to go ask. So if they don't know how to go ask, the dominant culture they're going to get what they want because they're set up to listen to each other and they're going to get it. Because how many people are following in your footsteps or knocking on your door saying, "Teach me how to do this"?
Well, and the sad part, every time I go to try to litigate, I got to go outside the state to get lawyers.
Right.
In the situation with the young man in the wheelchair, we had to go outside the state.
Yep.
And I am going to bring, I'm on one more bite of this apple, I am going to bring class action litigation
that's
as
what I'm talking
as
about.
relates to the schools, because we have set, since January of 2001, the neighborhood school committee said there needs to be a reduction in the number of school districts in the city. There needs to be a weighted funding formula for high poverty schools. Okay, and the schools in the city have suffered irreparably because of what everything Sam said. The only thing he left out was the Choice School Act. But the Neighborhood School Act, the Charter School Act, and the Choice School Act have created resegregation and created all these high poverty schools. We agreed universally, 2001, that these are the things needed to attempt to properly educate children in high poverty schools, and they have refused to do it. My question to you, Sam, is if I, as a black man, am fearful of enjoying my life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in the community where I live because I'm afraid that the criminal element is going to hurt me, and if on top of that I am now, because the Wilmington police shot a man in a wheelchair, I have good cause to fear the police. Why am I not entitled to go into federal court and ask for relief? Because you, systemically, governments have failed systemically to protect my health and safety, and I don't have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that the country was
Basically,
founded with.
unconstitutional and un-American.
And you know what they're going to say when they look at you?
Am I or am I not entitled to that relief?
You may be entitled to the relief, but you know what the system's going to say to you? They're going to say the same thing they said with education. When they asked the black community, what did we want? And we didn't want local control. We didn't want to control the education of our children by the lines being drawn where we have political control to make the decisions for our children's best interest. When we didn't say we wanted that directly, they laughed and said, well, then we're going to keep kicking your kids in the butt. You don't want to educate them. Well, they purposefully have been trying to run black folks out of Wilmington, Delaware for most of my adult life. Every project they have is designed to get us out and replace us with yuppies because they want this land because it's important. Absolutely. And so all of these destructive things that you see are part of a plan.
How relevant then
Absolutely.
is...
It's called regentrification.
It started a project. It started, hold your point.
In your opinion as a lawyer, how relevant is this pending land bank legislation? How relevant is that, and what kind of impact is it going to have on displacement? Because Wilmington, number one, Hicks predicted, and he told me, and he told a bunch of us in the 70s and the 80s. This was not the center, the Hicks Anderson Center with that Olympic-sized swimming pool, and the early childhood education center was not intended for us. That the long-term intention was that they would extend downtown, and we would be displaced. So. If you look at the vacant properties, and now you look at the pending land bank legislation, it fits like a glove.
Well, West side and east side.
And Wilmington, Delaware is the only city in the United States of America where a city administration purposely went into public housing and emptied, tore it down, square blocks of public housing without a plan to replace them.
That's right.
And went into another section of the city, tore down square blocks of public housing without a plan to replace them. So the argument that we have heard, that we were forewarned about, that they're trying to take the city back, in my opinion, it's meritorious. But I still say, Sam, I'm entitled to relief because I'm not safe.
And they're going to laugh at you. Yes, you're entitled to relief, but what they're going to say is, well, hold on. Since Jim Seals became mayor, we've had a black mayor and a majority black city council from then to now, where we're all the way up to 8 black city council people sitting there. So when they look at that and they say, well, you have political control over your jurisdiction.
Except, and my argument back to that, no, I'm entitled to relief because you, General Assembly, there was never been a majority black, you interfered purposely and intentionally. When you said that our employees don't have to live in the city, and you put a shotgun to the mayor's head and said, we'll let them stay for 5 years, but if you don't do that, we're going to make it 0. Okay? And I argued then, and I said, we should have taken them into court then because it's a violation of one man, one vote. Okay? And two,
but who sponsored it?
And two, the General Assembly, when they had to pay our lawyers $1 million for winning the school desegregation case, as soon as the lawyers got paid, they passed a legislation that took a percentage of the wage tax away because it said, you don't need it anymore because you no longer run a school system. That's been $12, $13 million a year for the last 30-some years that the city of Wilmington should have. So it's not our fault solely because you took away our authority. Purposely and intentionally, and if you wanted to help us,
one way is
you would help us generate new revenue, give us back the wage tax and add to it.
But we have 13 lawyers.
Yeah, but one
talking
thing
about the class action, man.
You got one way is our fault because you know why?
Not get him excited because he about to punch me in the face.
the class action thing is what I'm talking about, man.
One way is the vote. The vote that we vote for people that we don't even know, man. Somebody will bring $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 in this town, 10,000, whatever. They give it to the person. They run out and get everybody to vote for this person. Then this person turn around and turn their back on us and don't produce nothing.
And they're trying to do that
and
now.
not only that, we control it in the county on primary. Dover controlled theirs. Okay. Then when you go down to Milford, they control theirs. But we have not been sensitive enough to understand that the power is sitting right in the vote. How we pick that vote, what we do with that vote. And now we got a chance. We got a chance to put everybody out who we don't want in. I'll give them a good fight.
Listen to
Okay, but
this.
we spent 40
listen to
minutes
this.
talking about what's wrong.
Listen to
I think
this.
we need to spend the next 20 talking about what we're going to
right.
do
Oh,
about it.
that's
I
what I
say
want.
class,
Yeah.
I say that's my
Listen to
class,
this.
class action.
No, hey, look.
Coming again.
Class action suit is correct, but you know what also I'd like to see? I'd like to see city council people who read documentation.
Do they read it?
Like I said, I like to see city council people, and I like to see people who are in position reading documentation.
And right there.
Not texting, not talking. When it comes across their desk, they need to be familiar
Absolutely.
with what is coming across the desk. That's one. Two, I'd like to see more of us being more accountable. Not just talking right, walking left. Let's get out here. If you have a child in school, go to the school.
Go to the school.
Go to the school. I put on my Facebook, I don't even get on Facebook. We had a city council person get on the Facebook and say they were down at the shooting on Vanderbilt Avenue, which was a triple shooting, and nobody was talking to the police. Step it up, people. Well, first of all, you're talking to my people. Second of all, what you're talking about is a lie. Because I had personal relatives who took in the boy who was shot, put him in the house, and was talking, and nobody came to that house. Nobody canvassed that neighborhood and says, did you see what happened? If you go back to the Public Strategy Commission report and you go into the executive summary, it says that there is no protocol for proper engagement.
And then the
so
police-
what I'd like
police
to
also
see
said
us
in the
do,
car. Now, don't
right?
leave that part out.
What?
That they didn't get out of the car.
Well, that's the proper protocol for engagement. So you're talking about what do we do? Okay, Mr. Mayor, all right, Mr. Chief of Police, let's go back to the documentation. Let's say if we catch you at at Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, wow,
if,
wow.
if the people come, like I got on my phone, the other day there was a shooting up my street. If we catch you wrong, you're out of here. See, the problem is nobody gets fired no more.
Right.
Nobody gets fired. We need to say.
So we need an accountability with the police department, and
We
so
need a class action lawsuit against all of them.
Okay,
Every damn one of them.
Here's what we have. This is what has already been agreed to. Neighborhood School Committee made a set of recommendations. They were agreed to. Not only were they agreed to then, they were agreed to again in April 2008 by the Wilmington Education Task Force, and now they were just agreed to again by the Wilmington Education Improvement Committee. So this has been agreed to 3 times. 1, do this. Right. 2, my plan, and then subsequently the well-crafted Hope Commission plan. This was agreed to by folks representatives of all levels of government. It wasn't funded. This was agreed to. This was a plan to reduce the violence. It's comprehensive, not just police. We agreed to this, funded. When I looked at my little plan, which was the genesis of the Hope Commission plan, I stopped counting money at $10 million a year, okay? Because that's what it costs if you're going to do all the preventive things and all the reactive things concurrently. And 3, you got a police strategy plan that the Governor's Commission, just 200 pages. 1, 2, 3 have already been agreed to. Do them. And I'm saying I'm entitled to the relief that 1 major document, 2 major documents, 3 major documents have already been agreed to. So why can't I say, Your Honor, these have already been agreed to. Make them pay for it.
And
Why
who's
can't I
waiting-
get that relief that
and
way?
Who's waiting for you when you, depends on if you go state court, who's waiting for you?
They're allies.
And if you go federal court, who's waiting for you? That's maybe you have a better shot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But in the federal side, in the state
So-
side, the people in charge
but-
are the same people that helped
Okay,
us
but
get here.
suppose he and I go state court and you and him go federal court. Let's get it on.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I don't get this, and that is that, you know, I have a real understanding that governments and elected officials can always do a whole lot more than what they think they can do.
Thank
And
you.
we've had a
Thank
law
you.
department
Thank you.
of over 13 lawyers
Thank you.
for the last 24 years that's been under the control of a black mayor and
Thank
a
you.
majority black
And
council
Haberdine
member.
officer.
And in my view, that is an army that's there to assist the city of Wilmington in pursuing some of the issues that you mentioned. Because some
moving
of them have to
forward.
do with how the residents of Wilmington are being treated in some of those categories. Some of those require outside people to litigate. But some of them, just like didn't Mayor Sills file suit against the gun manufacturers? And didn't Jim Baker file suit against the Christina School District, right? So what I'm saying is the precedent's there. Because I'd have all them lawyers working on some of these legal issues, and that's what we should
City
do.
council can call in when you were on city council. Correct me if I'm wrong. You call for a hearing.
No, I held the hearing.
I haven't seen not one council person hold a hearing.
They blame everybody else.
Well, I thought the question was, what do we talk about going forward?
Right. We already know the
You
issue.
can, let's say it, you can have a hearing to determine facts
That's
and
correct.
to move forward. Since we're so data driven, we need empirical data. Now, I'll tell you, a couple things going to happen. Now, I was around with Churches Take a Corner, some other stuff, a lot of good people doing good work when we had the heroin epidemic.
I haven't left.
When, yeah, it did. It left,
back.
it returned. The
went out in the covering game.
reason it left is because we put federal, state resources, but I was at the table when Joe Biden called in DEA, FBI, and a lot of folks. He said, "Now tell them what we're dealing with." They could name the dope coming from Pakistan to Aramingo. I thought it was 95 as a major corridor, but it actually was coming from 13.
Yep.
And I said, well, when in God's name did 13 become a major? And then they had the packages that was on the west side and whatever. My point is, when the profile of the dope user change from black and the dehumanizing of black folks, meaning when black kids and black old folk coming out of jail were dying, the profile changed to a little white girl, 14, right? And hooked now. Now we got a problem.
But it's always been
And
that way.
let me tell you, and we swung into action. We created Heroin Hurts. We created some other stuff. And the same thing happened, and I'm done, when we had 7 bodies falling around the city and the preachers were sitting up at the table. I said, we sitting at the table talking about who gonna be the next NAACP president? And you got a body out here? I said, I'm leaving this table now. And they said, well, what we gonna do? I said, you're gonna call a press conference and you're gonna tell the mayor, who was Baker at the time, he said, well, y'all don't have y'all press conference, have it out? I said, no, we don't work for you. We work for God. And God speaks to the power, to the king. And I said, that's the way I understand it. The king don't tell God's people what to do. I said, no, we telling you.
That's right.
And then when we talked to him like that, he reached in his bag and he went and looked around the room, and he found in 2 days, with the DEA's help and the FBI help, that it was a little guy across the border creating something in a lab, which turned out to be a garage, called fentanyl. And he was mixing it with the dope. And the people were shooting it, and they didn't know what they had. You understand? And they were dying.
That's why I'm
so
saying
don't
class
tell
action
me
lawsuit.
that these folks that's sitting in these positions
Don't
cannot
know. That's
do
right.
a little more.
That's right.
I'm not saying that, I'm trying to do all I can. The Lord just healed me from cancer. I'm back. And if I'm back and I'm doing all I can, you back and you back and you back and you back and you back, then you all better get up and get back and do all you can.
Okay, this we
Okay,
going.
but there's a strategic error in judgment that we make. Everybody around here is old enough to vote 2-3 times.
Yes,
And we're talking about our young people.
and we need to have them at the table.
Until we bring them to the table, just like we were brought to the table and we turned some tables over and we got some heinies kicked and all that, but until we include them as part and parcel of this conversation, it's going to be destined for failure, because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired too. That's why they're acting the way they're acting. And as to this whole thing about you need to have the parents go to the school, you miseducated me.
Yeah.
You put me out of school at an early age. I don't like the school system. I don't like teachers, and I'm not going up there unless I have to. And when you bother my baby, I'm raising hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you got to educate me and my child at the same time. And I'm saying, I do that for a living.
Okay, we got
And
2 minutes.
If we don't do that,
And I'm
Everybody got 2
if we
minutes.
don't do
so
that,
we
we're
can get
not
out here
being
on
all
time.
inclusive.
And I'm saying that
Get
the
your 2 minutes.
spiritual community has to be in the forefront of this, just like it was when we came out of the Reconstruction in this country after the Civil War. It was our religious leaders that brought all this to point, not the secular community, because we got too many damn house Negroes running around here
Talking
interjecting.
black and living on the Negro they can.
Yeah. And soon we
I didn't say that.
soon as we
The
organize,
imam
yeah, I
said
said,
that, Bishop.
soon as we organize something to do, they'll send 2 or 3 of them Negroes at us to offset the whole thing, and that's how we got to this point right here.
Okay, Sam.
What I know is that whenever there's a black man somewhere in this country on a job and the system wants to harass him, they mess with his money. So they fire him and make him fight for a year to get his job back. And what I'm saying to you is that whatever strategy there is, it better make folks understand that there's money at risk. Because the people that are directly harming our community and our children, they're doing it on behalf of the people that are making all the money, because their job is to control us and destroy us so that the upper echelon can make millions of dollars. So when somebody said that the corporate community ain't at the table, well, I don't understand that, because I brought their butts to the table when I was in a position to, and that was as an elected official, NAACP. So if the folks ain't acting right coming to the table, then we need to have a meeting about how to get them to the table, because they're the bosses.
I'm talking
We're
about.
talking to the peons.
That's what I'm talking
We
about.
need to get with the bosses and tell their butts, get in here at a meeting,
You got 30
and this is
seconds.
what you need to do to get the people who work for you under control.
Because it's un-American and unpatriotic.
Go ahead, Mr. Ty.
I want to say, Bishop, Apostle, that was the imam that said DAM. It wasn't me. All my people.
Why don't you tell what you said Friday?
Bishop Morton, it wasn't me. It was the imam over there. All my family, friends, I love you all. God bless you all. Please pray for us as we undergo, and pray for the NAACP being having the courage and the forthright to bring this forward. In my closing 1 minute, don't forget what happened in Nazi Germany. There were good people who sat down and first watched Hitler, who was wickedly great. He was wickedly great, dehumanized the Jews step by step by step, to where good people begin to think, oh, they get what they get. Do not sit around, if you are a good God-fearing person, and believe that we just get what we get. He will say, my friend, the Imam, it is un-American, unpatriotic, and unconstitutional. I will say it's unrighteous, ungodly. And that's my little 2 minutes.
Go ahead, President.
Mine is coming up this Thursday at 1 o'clock, and we talk about young leaders. If everyone is like the young leaders, they can be at the table, because we start the process. And the process is that we're going to meet with the federal official, like Jay was talking about, and you, the FBI, DEA, all of them we're going to meet.
alphabets.
And I hope they bring the CIA in too. We need them too.
They're part of it.
Okay? But we're going to meet, and we want the leaders to come around the table, because this is our opportunity, NAACP, along with Church Take a Corner, all these groups got together, the Muslim stuff, and said enough is enough.
Right.
We at the table now at the Urban League, at the boardroom, 1 o'clock with NAACP and all us, and we plan to be there every week, and we plan to bring our resources in, and we plan to come up with the 3 plans that they already got, Jay, and then our plan. Our plan is to get People Settlement open, to get Kingswood open, to get everything we had to make this city whole, and begin to teach people how to vote, and not take their vote for a bottle of liquor or $10 or $100 and chicken bone, but use those votes to take our city back.
Well, you know, I tell folks, I work every day and most nights. And I got 2 pieces of letterhead. One is executive director, one is councilman.
You had 3.
And I used both of them this week to pick this fight, to make sure that I could do what I could to bring this to the forefront. And I'm saying that's just one elected official, one executive director. I believe in my heart that every elected official has comparable responsibility and has comparable, their letterhead is just as important as my letterhead. And I'm gonna end by saying, if you ain't part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I just can't, I'm gonna continue down this road till some change is made. And I don't think anybody, this community should allow anybody to be exempt from being held accountable for the change that's necessary and drastically needed for the protection of our children, protection of our city. I'm gonna do everything I can think of within the legal parameters of the law and use all the limited influence I have to try to make a change, and I just urge others to join me. And finally, I'll say to the senator who said that what I said about the program was completely baseless, well, why don't you tell us what you're going to do besides call me, and probably others of us, baseless, because when you say you're baseless, you're useless. And I'm saying what I've seen from you so far as senator, other than criticizing me, has been absolutely useless.
Sam, you got
Second that emotion.
we got 1 minute, and then I'll have my closing remarks. Okay, Ty.
Listen, October the 30th, the councilman talked about young people coming together. October the 30th.
Mischief night.
October the 30th, there's
Mischief
going to
night.
be a Justice for Jeremy march. And it's headed by young people, for young people, by young people. I'm going to go October the 30th. October the 30th. Jeremy, Justice for Jeremy. It's Bam Bam, the brother who was shot in the wheelchair. So don't meet us there, beat us there. It's going to start up at the baseball courts on Jackson Street. It's going to start at the baseball courts on Jackson Street.
Basketball.
And is that say basketball?
Because there ain't no baseball court down here.
Is that
Adam Ford.
Jackson
Okay.
Street at the basketball court.
That's in
yo.
my council
Under the
district. Ain't no
turnpike.
basketball. Ain't no
Under the
baseball
turnpike.
down
Under
there.
the turnpike. Y'all know I'm from Riverside, but you know I'll
Right.
be over there on the west side. Trust me when I tell you.
Well, I done marched
It's
out.
at-
I ain't marching with
It's at
y'all.
the basketball courts on Jackson Street, everybody, and the time is at 1:30. 1:30, October 30th. Justice for Jeremy McDowell. The march takes off and it ends up in Rodney Square.
Okay.
See you there.
In closing, great to have you guys here. It's always a wealth of knowledge. The one thing I feel is we have to focus on. We always look at we look at all the aftermath instead of looking at the cause. We really have to focus on the cause. And far as the federal goes, all the stuff that you give us never talks about prevention. You always talk about all the stuff that's happening.
After it's already over. Yeah.
After it's, okay, let's just put some preventative measures in place so we don't have to worry about the other thing, you know. We always want to put a Band-Aid on a person who get cut. Just don't let them get cut.
They need to give us some money so we can do it.
And I think it's our responsibility to come up with the prevention things that we
And,
want
and take
done.
it to the table.
And I would respectfully suggest that I started that with my plan that was adopted by County Council in April 2005, and then the Hope Commission did a masterful job in enhancing that. And it needs to be followed.
That's good.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all for listening in. I apologize we didn't take any phone calls. I know people were trying to call in. We'll see you on the second Sunday next month.
They said that was mouse call.
That was my call. NAACP Roundtable.
By the way,
Peace.
stop it
We
from
out.
me, man.